down the line, question answers down the line kind of situation.
Okay.
Should we even bother with the mics, or should we just...
Sharing and passing them back and forth because,
Respectfully, I can't understand everything you're saying.
I believe in you. Okay. Well, this is just going to be a... What's the PC way of saying the game Chinese whispers?
Wait, honestly, cut the mics. Let's just talk.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Except there's the stream thing.
Oh, the stream.
Oh. Okay.
So it's like you got to try to hear me while not hearing me.
I
got it, guys.
The difficulties.
Okay. All right, you'll interpret for us.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next event today. I am joined by a handful of wonderful content creators while someone's taking a selfie. I'd like each person, I guess we'll start with the far side, working our way down, your name, and what platforms we can find you on.
Hey guys, my name is Merlin, or Mech Merlin. You can find me on Twitch and YouTube. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ellie, aka KeepNoob, and I'm mostly on Twitch and Instagram, but you can also follow me on that TikTok.
Hi everyone, my name is Richard, also known as Wrong Dongs, usually on Twitch, Instagram as well.
My name is Ryan Norbauer. I make keyboards and occasionally write about it. Norbauer.com or ryan.norbauer.com for more engineering newsletter type stuff.
My name is Marcia, but I go by Apiary online, and you can find me on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter.
Damn, nice. All right, everyone.
Hi, my name is Richard, also Richard. I go by Tofu Types, and you can find me on YouTube and Twitch and Instagram.
Hi everybody, my name is Vince. I also go by Vinius and Ferb. You can find me on all platforms, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter as well. I'm also creating content for Drop and Corsair, so you can also go check out those pages. I appear on those as well.
Good employee. Yeah.
Thank you so much for all of you who've joined me today. Round of applause from everyone to these wonderful individuals who've driven in, flown in, gone cross country to be here today. So I'd like to start off very, very simple question for everyone down the line. Favorite Switch?
Oh God.
Gateron Black Inks V.
I'm lazy, so to lube anything, so I'm gonna go with Cream Sodas by Punk Shoe.
I think for me, BCPs probably.
Unlubed Topra 30 grams.
I go back and forth between, my newest love is HMX Macchiatos, and my oldest love is JWK. Maybe Pinocchio's?
Any of my switches. Please buy them.
Guys. Gateron Milky Yellows. You can't go wrong with it. Great for beginners. Still go back to them today, even though I've tried hundreds of them. So, Gateron Milky Yellows.
Wonderful. Now that we got a precursor into this personality test, let's take things a little spicier. What's at least one of your keyboard hot takes?
Linear is.
I'm gonna say people who hate on 40% are cringe.
I think alu plates are boring.
0 degrees is the correct typing angle.
HHKV is the only good layout.
Okay.
I'm stealing Vin's, but for Alice and Arisus, you should not only have 2 B's, but 2 Y's.
That's true. You don't need arrow keys. You don't need function rows. Just learn how to use macros. You're just lazy.
Ooh, we're getting spicy. I like it. I like it. The next question for everyone down the line. We're gonna switch things up because I was requested to switch things up. Food hot takes.
Food hot takes. Food.
Food hot takes.
I hate being first here. Oh my gosh. All right, I'm gonna spoil a bit of Tofu Time's video here, but yes, I may be Asian, but I really like soy sauce over rice.
I will say, because I'm a coffee hater, that hot chocolate supremacy over coffee.
I think Japanese barbecue is better than Korean barbecue.
That's what I was gonna say.
I think carbohydrates are metabolic poison.
Or salad. Okay.
Hot pot is better than Korean barbecue.
Little Caesars is actually good when somebody's not in your ear telling you that it's shit. Yes, sir.
I'm just gonna add cereal is soup. It's cold soup, like gazpacho, right? Okay. I was told to not go off script. I like going off script, but okay. We're gonna reverse the order to give Mark a moment. Okay, we're gonna switch up the pressure. What does your crystal ball tell you about the future of the keyboard industry?
Somebody in the audience just said exit scams. Let's hope no more of those.
It's always been cherry.
Either clickies or silent switches are going to be making a comeback soon, unfortunately.
Yes, I have.
Right.
I just think that there will be a sort of continued expansion of both the sort of high and low end. So less expensive, more accessible, good things will continue to be available. And I think also on the very high end, more luxurious, interesting things will become available for people who don't want to have to necessarily build their own thing from scratch.
I think budget keyboards are going to become the norm again.
I think a return to aggressive tactiles, like on brass.
I'd like to say that I'm the only one here who actually has a magic crystal ball. So I think the future is going to be more ZMK.
Okay, the next question. We're gonna do the same order for one more time before we swap it back. Coiled cables, yay or nay?
What? Coiled cables, yay or nay?
It's overdone, guys. Go with that slim YC8 or Lindy cable. Those ones. Chef's kiss.
Straight limo is the way to go.
Coiled cables and quick connects exist for a reason, and y'all who don't use them are too young to be here.
As someone whose primary motivation and attachment to keyboards comes from my childhood adoration of an IBM Model M keyboard, I'm extremely in favor of coiled cables. But my experience in having just recently offered a coiled cable keyboard is that I'm in the extreme minority on this. Most people prefer straight.
For me, my OCD says no to coiled cables, so I have to say straight cable.
I'm gonna say yes for coiled cables, but they don't fly in my house because my cat's attacked.
The same experience.
Okay, so the next question. Okay, this is going to be an interesting one. Will there be an end to group buys being in the mainstream? Mark?
I think there will always be a need for the group buy, actually, kind of like how there's still a Kickstarter going on. So group buys will still continue, but definitely maybe at a much smaller scale.
I would also agree. I think we're going back to the private buy, friends only, which may lead to allegations of gatekeeping, but it's like you gotta do what you gotta do.
I think group buys will always have a place. I think it allows for more unique designs, and it allows for people to create what they want and see what others enjoy. But I think we'll see a push towards accountability and transparency at a different level than what we've had in the past.
The premise of your question is mainstream, right? Will they be mainstream? And I think probably they're really not even mainstream anymore. You could so easily get a very good mechanical keyboard without having to go through a group buy. But still, there's a very rich, community of people running them, doing weird and interesting things. And I would be really sad to see that go away. I don't think it will. But putting yourself forward, offering a group buy, especially if you don't have extensive manufacturing experience, because the community has become increasingly impatient about the prospect of things being a scam, I think they probably also will move in this direction of just being private, small things among friends, because those people will be more patient with you, right? Rather than just an open offering on a random community forum. It seems fine to me.
I've always held the slightly hot opinion that group buys should have never been mainstream, and that they should have always been reserved for small businesses and niche ideas. I think large companies who have the ability to do an in-stock run should do an in-stock run. But I always hope and think that group buys should always exist for what they've always been for, which is to fund a project together with a group of people who want to see it happen and are willing to put their money behind making it happen. But I do feel like group buy runners need to be far more responsible and make sure that they are charging a price that's appropriate so they can cover the actual manufacturing cost and not just what the manufacturer quoted them.
I have no idea how I'm going to top that, but I think inherently because group buys have always been in the nature of mechanical keyboards, it's kind of tough to get away from tradition. Personally, I would like, even if it's more later down the stage where it's a pre-order or if there's already a rolling group buy for it, I think that's a slightly better alternative than hopefully not getting exit scammed, as someone in the crowd mentioned.
Yeah, something great about going last is I can say what they said, all of the above. But in my personal opinion, the keyboard community, what's made it really special is the grassroots nature of the business and how we as individuals have created small projects through friend groups and discords or communities and been able to bring those up and take them to the mainstream and evolve the space and push the frontier of the technology. And so I always believe that group buys, fresh ideas, and blazing the path towards new and ingenious inventions will always have a space here and will always be part of that narrative, despite the changes that we're heading towards in terms of more transparency and more responsibility towards the consumer.
Those are some great and insightful answers. I'm thankful for all those answers. So let's change the topic and let's spread a little love. And we're going to start on this side this time. Obviously, aside from yourselves, potentially, who's your favorite keyboard content creator?
I gotta say, a role model of mine has to be Mr. Alex Odos. I think he represents a lot of amazing values in the community. You can always tune into his stream most days of the week and find him there. So I always relied on him to fill the void and when I'm working on things for long periods of time. And I always appreciate the sort of voice that he has in the community and the way that he treats others, and he's very respectful.
I would have to say Avi out in Australia. He does a really good job at doing a story narrative version of the board as opposed to basically telling you what the board is. Mainly just because it's very hard to strike emotion out of an inanimate object that inherently doesn't strike emotion, but he does a really good job at it. And yeah, really, really good pacing.
This is an extraordinarily hard question to answer. Excluding anybody on this stage or anybody who's already been mentioned, I'm going to go a little bit old school and throw it back to somebody who isn't here today but usually is here, the wonderful Tiny Makes Things. She's been streaming and making content for 8-9 years now. She was the first visible woman in the hobby, and in all honesty, and I can tell this story because she's not here to be embarrassed by it, I got into the hobby because she made these very accessibly priced artisans way back when. And my first ever keyboard purchase was a set of her artisans when she brought out with them. So she was the first ever keyboard content creator who I watched, and she's a very large part of why I got started in this space.
Excellent. So also excluding people on the stage or whom we've already mentioned, I'll make the obvious choice of Nathan Teha Kim, my very old friend. I knew him well before he became keyboard famous. I was just thinking about that as I was walking here. I met him at a keyboard meetup here in San Jose. There was like 30 people or something, because that was the size of keyboard meetups back in, I don't know when that would have been, 2016, 2015, maybe something like that. At any rate, he's been very supportive and encouraging to me, and it's been very satisfying to watch the trajectory of his meteoric rise on YouTube and so forth. And yeah, good old friend.
Similar to the others that spoke before me. Similar to what others have said, excluding those that are sitting up here, someone that I look up to a lot is Frank or Inamushki. What stands out to me the most about his approach to keyboards is over time he's developed a sense of like chasing the unique aspects of the hobby and really just doing what brings him joy, and so that involves a lot of customization, and he's always one that is going to push others to kind of pursue what they enjoy and what they find interesting, and not to let what others around them influence kind of where they go with their decision making, whether that's spending a ridiculous amount of money on a keyboard or buying something that's kind of on the lower end of the spectrum, because everyone can find joy in different places within the hobby.
I think for me, in addition to all the wonderful creators here, is Patty Shinshin Wang. I love her streams. I love too that she makes content that's not just keyboards, because she's like an excellent gamer as well. But she keeps it super real, especially on TikTok, and I've been lucky to meet her in person, and she's just as great in person too.
I think for me, it's like I owe a lot to Hui and Quakums when they were running Talk Clock. They were actually the ones who got me into streaming. So thank you very much. I am extremely humbled and thankful for the encouragement that you gave me back in, what was it, 2018. Also on that note, I thought today was the first day I was meeting Apiary in person, but apparently she met me back in 2017 before she was even Apiary. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, really?
Great answers, lovely answers. I hope all of you have a chance to check out all the wonderful creators they mentioned, as well as each of these creators here. The next question I would like to ask just escaped my brain. I'm trying to pull it back right now. The next question I'd like to ask is, along your career, along your path as a content creator, what is an unexpected lesson you've learned? Which side wants to start? This side or that side? Mike's on that side, so I guess Mark, you're going to start.
Me again? All right, okay. So a lot of you here have come up to me and said something like, oh, Merlin, I really missed your group buy news stream. And one thing, and like lately, as you guys have known, I've kind of like stopped doing that. And I guess to answer your question, up to this very day, people still want to know what's going on. It's still like, even though it's 2024, it's still hard to figure out what's going on in our hobby, and there's still a need for that. So, yeah, I guess what that communicates to me is that, like, I forget who said it to me earlier today, but they were like, you know, it kind of feels like if people don't know about group buys, it's kind of like gatekeeping. So gatekeeping still actually exists in this hobby, not so much as a active sense, but because it's so hard to still find information.
It's like a barrier to entry type of thing.
Exactly.
Okay. Something was surprised about, or that I've learned over the years, is that people are really willing to help if you ask. Because a lot of what I learned from the keyboard hobby is simply by asking people, because I was like, excuse me, I don't know what that is, but could you help me? And same with like content creation. Like when I first started, it was like a stack of boxes, and I put my MacBook on the top and faced it at me. So, and you're like learning about equipment or programs that people use. People are generally very friendly and willing to help, which has been awesome.
I think the interesting thing that I learned more about myself, not so much in relation to the hobby, but was something that I kind of grew into learning with creation and just trying to do the things that are enjoyable to me is I think back to a quote that I heard in a vlog probably a couple months ago, and it's the idea that done is better than perfect. I think I tend to have a tendency to constantly chase perfection and constantly chase an ideal that's in my mind, but in a lot of ways that's why I kind of took pause with creation for a while. That's why I didn't get into photography as heavily as I did eventually. And I think it applies to multiple different aspects of my life, and it's the idea, like, if you're trying and if you're learning along the way and you're enjoying that process and you can find different ways to enjoy that, the idea of finishing something is, wow, second time? Okay. The idea of finishing it is more empowering, I think, than chasing this idea of perfection and never creating a final product.
Yeah, I'll echo something along similar lines, which is that oftentimes what you think is the idea of perfection or the thing that will make something successful is actually just simply wrong. Like as I said recently, the talk that I gave at KeyCon, like I had no idea Nathan was even going to record it, and it was this extremely nerdy, hour-long, very technical deep dive that I thought like no one would ever get to the end of. And you know, it's been on YouTube for a month and has like 55,000 views. It's a reminder, just do whatever you want that is interesting. If it's interesting to you, other people might perhaps be interested in it. There's always this impulse to make things like short and snappy and like very accessible to a wide audience and all of these things, and like very hyper produced. And this is like the lowest production thing ever. And it's like, for whatever reason, people seem to be interested in it. I think people detect passion and excitement and have an appetite for content that is deep and different from what you find casually in other places. And there's something to be said for just allowing yourself to plunge into that and not care too much about the superficial like externals of what a polished social media presence would look like.
I think the most important one that I learned, and the one that took a really long time to learn, is that the vocal negative minority is much, much smaller than the quiet, positive majority. And so I think that applies as well to like the actual keyboards that are made. I don't think that's content exclusive, but it's really hard when you make something and you put your heart into it and you strive for that perfection, like Richard was saying, and you put it out, and even just one or two negative comments can really, really kill you. And yeah, I think it took me a solid 5 years to get it. That at the end of the day, the loudest people are both the people who know the least and the people who ultimately are in the minority the most.
Yeah, they're not representative necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. Norbauer said they're not representative at all, and I agree with that.
on a more lighthearted note, from the journey that I have in keyboards, I've come to learn that it has taken over my life to the point where it's now taken over my closet and I am too deep to quit.
Oh my gosh. I think the thing that I've learned throughout my content creation journey is that when I look across this room and I see the other creators up here, and also in the conversations I've had with other passionate people in here, is that you all have something that's very unique and beautiful to bring to the table, and all of us express and produce something that is through our own lived experiences. And everybody up here has had their own unique identity that's been formed through what they consume in terms of the media, what art they see, and what sort of humor they like. And that all comes into some sort of beautiful final product that manifests in each unique piece of content that you see today. And for me, that's been a really big part of discovering who I am. And I think for those people that are looking for advice about content creation, and the thing that I've learned the most is to go out there and to also, outside of just the craft that you work on, to have a lot of experiences, to talk to other people in the space, consume a lot of media, and to let that sort of shape this sort of beautiful and unique thing that you get to put out onto the internet or into the world. But yeah, for me, I just like being goofy, so that's my thing.
Wonderful answers, wonderful answers. And I have one last question before we turn it to the audience, in case the audience has any questions they'd like to ask any of the creators here. So between the 8 of us, collectively, we've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of keyboards. My question is, are there any surprises left?
I'm going to say yes, simply because I find that every week, every month, every year, someone finds a new and novel approach to making keyboards more efficient, better, or just creates an abomination, like an affront to God in like a crazy chassis. But I absolutely think that keyboards will be surprising us for as long as they exist.
I second that. I don't think we'll know what it is, because I think the biggest shocker I've seen recently was like magnetic daughterboard connectors, and then also the toolless case design. I think that on like some of the QK boards or something like that. I think there's still room for improvement for a lot of other avenues for either machining or finishing or just the overall construction. But yeah, there's always room for surprises.
We're just getting started, I think. I've been around for a little bit, not as long as some people, but I've been around for a little bit, and it's very easy to see how quickly innovation has started ramping up, and how much innovation has happened even the last 2 to 3 years compared to the 2 or 3 years beforehand. We are just now getting enough money in this space that businesses are incentivized to invest in R&D, and it's not just small individuals trying to fund products by crowdsourcing, right? So we are just now actually getting, you mentioned magnetic daughterboard connectors, things to make things easier to build. We're just now starting to see people being able to invest in trying really wacky mounting methods, right, which are very expensive to R&D and prototype. I think there's a massive, massive push recently with different switch materials, right, and different feels for those. So I think genuinely there are so many more surprises left. I think we're just barely getting started, and things are only going to get better from here. If only we can get people to stop just calling everything gasket mounted.
As someone who has spent horrifying amounts of money over the past few years on R&D, I can say I certainly hope that new things will be happening, some of which I've talked about and some of which I haven't yet. I hope to be able to deliver some of them over the coming few years. There's, we're very trapped in a lot of paradigms that we've kind of inherited from the legacy of the Cherry MX architecture and the stabilizers, mounting systems and everything. And I think that a lot of things have been, a lot of innovation in the keyboard community has, over the previous years, as you mentioned, been based on what can easily be done by enthusiasts with reasonable tools that can be purchased on Amazon. And we've learned things, interesting things from that. Come up with slightly different mounting mechanisms, gasketing things. But if you decide if you want to step back and re-examine every assumption that goes into what makes a keyboard good, I think there's plenty of unexplored territory for whatever it's worth. Sometimes it just takes a lot more money, for better or worse.
I think there's always room for innovation. I think as the consumer market gains access to materials that are traditionally more used for higher level engineering because of different capabilities, there's obviously impacts on density and sound and how that can alter things. So I'm curious to see how that impacts things like switches and also composition of different types of boards. But in general, at least for me, I get a sense that the hobby itself currently is reiterating a lot of the same types of boards and the same styles, and the elements that are involved in each are very similar across the board. But as creative efforts go, typically when you see a lull like that, where everything is kind of becoming standardized, eventually someone will want to break that mold, and it'll be a big statement to the market. But I think we're kind of in that phase where we're kind of falling into boards that are kind of the same across the board. So I'm curious to see where we'll go. I think there's always room to expand and to grow. Of course, you always see kind of niche aspects of the hobby within an already niche hobby, but within the mainstream, I think people are going to get inherently bored of the same basic form of a 60, 65, TKL, 75, and I think that as technology grows, the keyboard world will also grow with it, and it'll birth more interesting. I mean, we hear of Hall effect keyboards and things like that. So I'm curious to see where it'll go, and I'm pretty sure we're not done with invention and ingenuity.
I was thinking about what you were saying, like everything looks the same, and whenever I want to be inspired, I look at the Japanese keyboard hobby. Like, if you have not checked out the Japanese hobby and like their Discord, their layouts they're coming up with, and like there's a ton of innovation there that I would hope would be more reflected in our community here. And then also, like, on a personal level, I think there's a lot for me to learn. I only started building Topra this year, so like I think there's definitely lots of things that we can, on a personal level, learn about, and also kind of, like I've been dabbling in PCB stuff, so there's definitely things to learn and innovate on, I think, on the personal level as well.
I think over the last couple of years, there's been a race towards getting the cheapest possible keyboard for the most amount of features, and I believe that's actually going to keep going. We're going to have like cheaper and cheaper keyboards, maybe under $100 for like a full metal chassis. But personally, it's like I think it's not just the materials that we're going to get better at, the manufacturing that we're going to get better at, but it's also in the software. Earlier, I mentioned about ZMK. Like, as many of you know, I am one of the QMK moderators, even though I'm not as active anymore. But I believe that the software, it's like as people get more accustomed to having wireless software and also having software that functions more like VIA, it's not only going to expand our hobby as a whole, but also drive people to implement new features into it as well.
Wonderful answers. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to now turn it over to any audience questions that might be present.
Hey, thanks for the panel. That was great. I was going to ask, one of the most common newbie questions I get is I want 100% and I can't find one in the mechanical keyboard hobby, especially a hot swap. Why do you think that is? Why do we not see more 100% so that newer people can enter the hobby?
So the question was, why do we not see more 100% full-size keyboards in the enthusiast space? Who wants to take this one?
They're expensive and they're hard to make sound good. That's really it. There's a very the keyboard hobby partially started from the pursuit of a smaller keyboard, right? That's kind of one of the origins of it. So people started taking the numpad off, etc. So there's that ingrained in it too. But the material cost, obviously, for 100% is much higher. The demand is much lower, and because it's so much larger, there's so much more room for resonance. So they're harder to make sound good. Not that that's a problem if you fill it with foam, but you know.
Thank you. Do we have any next question?
Hi. So I got into the keyboard hobby kind of for the more vintage angle. I've been excited to see like a lot of interesting kind of vintage throwback things come out, Hall Effect and ZLPC's Clickies. I was curious if you're aware of anything that you feel has unjustly been thrown to the side of keyboard in terms of technology or anything really that you feel could use a comeback.
As a vintage enthusiast, he's asking, do you feel there's any keyboard technologies that may have been undervalued, underrated, thrown to the side compared to how popular it should be?
Bring solenoids back into the mainstream.
So, as someone who's also into vintage boards, Hall Effect, Alps, buckling springs, beam springs, etc. A big underrated thing, it would be of course like Alp switches, but unfortunately there is a level of mechanical complexity no one wants to return to, hence their, well, extinction, let's put it.
And they should stay dead. No, I think one thing that's starting to come up, but in a different way, and most people don't realize it's coming back, is speed switches. So Wooting has been like all over the news, whatever, in the keyboard world for their rapid trigger, but that's just a speed switch rebranded. So I think I would love to see more speed switch options rather than just rapid trigger technology. I would like to see it come back in an MX or Kale, whatever, a mechanical switch format rather than just Hall Effect. So we can get more options, we can get tactile going in there, and we can maybe make it a little bit better and not just a marketing scheme for a gaming company.
More macro columns, please. I want more macro columns. A lot of the older keyboards I had always had like 2 or 3 rows on the left. Played them for like Warcraft or any other MMO. Would be nice to have them back. Okay, not everyone on.
Also, in relation to that, quick thumbs up or down, pencil/pen rails, should they return? We got how the audience? Pencil or pen rails? What we got a mix? Got a lot of downs, a few ups. Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Anyone else who would like to ask a question for these wonderful individuals? If not, we will wrap up this Q&A section. Well, thank you so much for you 7. Round of applause, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in today to this wonderful meetup and blessing us with your presence. We'll have some final announcements as well as finding out who guessed the correct number of switches in that bucket in about